All right, welcome everybody to Book Think number 7 here on my channel, The Fantasy Thinker. And today I have a very special guest, Angela from Do Unicorns Read on
Hello.
YouTube. Hello, and how are you today?
I'm fine. Thank you for having
Excellent,
me.
excellent.
Yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to this.
Yes, and this is a very interesting choice of book we're going to be talking about because we just did a read along of China Mieville's Perdido Street Station last year,
Mm,
in last September, I think it was,
yeah,
and um, and so today you brought up China Mieville's book Embassytown, and
yeah.
so oh yeah, very nice, and I have a little picture of it
Yeah,
there
it's
for
yeah, it's the same edition. Yeah.
that's the edition there, nice. So that's what we'll be talking about today. And but just for the people who don't know about your channel, could you tell us a little bit about your channel and other maybe other projects you have?
Yeah, my channel is called Do Unicorns Read. It exists for roughly a year and a half now. So I started in the middle of 2022. Um, and yeah, it was prompted by having one very persistent real life friend who says, "Well, why don't you have a booktube channel?" And I have to say, before the pandemic, I hadn't even heard of booktube. I
Me
had no
either.
idea. No, I had no idea until that friend actually said to me, "Do you watch booktube?" And I was like, "What? No, what's that?" So she recommended a couple of channels to me, but she was watching mostly people who do literary fiction at the time. Um, and I was like, that's not really me. There must be other stuff. So went on the lookout for fantasy channels. And then, of course, you get the big names, no? Daniel Green, Mike's book reviews, and things like that. Um, and yeah, so I watched more and more of those fantasy channels. And at some stage, actually discovered Philip Chase.
Yeah.
Um, and well, I'm not the person who just sits and watches. I leave comments. No? And when he started his Do Unicorns Read segment, sorry, his, what's it called? The Dear Dr.
Uh,
Fantasy.
Dear Dr. Fantasy,
Yeah,
yes.
Dear Dr. Fantasy segment. I left a bit of jokingly comment saying, I really love this format, but I, of course, will never be a guest on Dear Dr. Fantasy, and got an answer back saying, well, you can just start a channel. And I'm like, yeah, no, I don't want a channel. And it was at least for another half a year, I don't want a channel. And in the end, I gave in and said, yeah, why not? Give it a try. Yeah, and here we are a year and a half later, and I think almost 330 subscribers almost.
Yeah.
And yeah, lots of fun discussions, fun
Yeah.
videos, and yeah,
Yep. And,
great.
and I discovered your channel through Dear Dr. Fantasy because
Okay, yeah,
so
yeah.
and that's when I
I think
started
I
paying
must have been
attention.
one of the smallest channels he had ever on, because I hadn't even 50 subscribers at that time when I was on Dear Dr. Fantasy. I was like, what am I even doing here? But yeah, that was good.
Yeah, very good. And so and just I watch your channel because I like your analysis and I like your reviews
Mm,
when you review stuff, and I like some of your essays too. So,
yeah.
um,
Yeah, my background is actually, I used to be a literature professor. I used to teach in a university and teach literature. So I have a PhD in comparative literature, um,
nice.
which has been, well, defunct at that stage for several years, because I stopped doing that because I thought, I want to be a visual artist. So I know, career move, pivot. Isn't that what they call it? Pivot.
Hey,
So
that's
I,
okay.
I pivoted. So there you go. Yeah. But yeah, so I do have a literary or literature background.
Yes,
Um,
yes,
which I
indeed. You can tell. uh,
so yeah.
Excellent. So on to Embassytown by China
Yeah.
Mieville.
Yeah.
This book was released in 2011.
2011.
Yeah,
2011. That's when it was
yeah,
first
and
kind of like published. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's actually
and
the first book by China Mieville that I've ever read.
it is the first one.
Um,
Okay, I
yeah,
was going to ask.
this
I
is
was going to
how
ask. Yeah.
I found him. So this is the first of his books I've ever read. He has published other books before that. His very first is The Rat King, and I think that's something like 10 years before this, if not even
Yes.
earlier.
Yep.
I don't
Correct. Yeah.
remember anymore when Rat King was published. But this is the first I've ever read by him, and it completely hooked me. I really thought, wow, what a writer, what a book, what yeah, density and richness of themes and bonkers inventions. And I thought, wow, I want to read more of this guy. And then I did. I think the next one was The City. And then I systematically just made my way through his back catalog. But I've never read Pretty to Street Station. So I thought I should do something about that. That's why we had the read along last year. So yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, and this
So
book got some
I'm obviously a
critical.
China Mieville fan in a way. Yeah.
Yes. And this book got some critical acclaim. It won the Locus Award
Yeah.
and was nominated for Hugo Award and Nebula Awards. So
Mm.
it definitely
It
has
got also very good reviews when it came out. I didn't read it straight away when it came out, but very shortly after. So around that time, like maybe 2012, 13, that I actually read then Embassytown. And I don't even know even anymore how I found it. Maybe somebody recommended it or something. I don't remember. But there is actually a review of Embassytown by Ursula Le Guin,
ah nice.
and she loved it. And if Ursula likes it, then it's good enough for me. So the other
Yes.
big writer. I mean, I'm also. I mean, that's the other big writer I really love, Ursula Le Guin. So,
Yes.
and Mieville has also said in interviews that he's very influenced by her, and I think one can actually see this, especially when it comes to how he depicts cultures. So, yeah.
Okay. Yes. Because I was wondering how you actually found out about this series, but it
As this
seems
was
like
way before my appearance on BookTube and me knowing about BookTube, I think somebody recommended it,
somebody
or
recommended it. Yeah.
the other option could be I was looking up something about languages and books that feature language, and it surfaced in that context
Ah.
because it deals a lot with language. This is one
Okay.
of the main themes of the book, and one of my, how shall I say, research interests always has been language and language philosophy. So I did my MA on a topic related to language philosophy.
Okay. And this is a science fiction setting, right?
This
This
is a space opera.
space
So
opera. Okay.
yeah, like with his other books, Mieville is very, how shall I say, genre binding or genre
Bending. Yeah.
defined,
Right.
bending defined. Um, and somewhere jokingly said he wants to write a book in every genre. And this is his idea of space opera. And it's very different from normal space opera because I'm actually not such a fan of space opera and was a bit apprehensive thinking, "Ugh, yeah, okay, spaceships, laser beams, do I actually want this?" But it's nothing like that at all. Nothing like that at all. I
Okay.
mean, we
That's
are in space, we are on a, how shall I say, imagined planet, but that, and there is space travel and intergalactic travel, but that's about it. Nothing else.
oh, okay.
The rest is really, it's really just the background, no, and yeah, part of the world building, but otherwise it's as I say, it's very much a book about culture, cultural encounter, language, how we use language, how language shapes how we see the world,
Okay.
or how our world might shape language. Who knows? No, either way might be possible. So yeah,
Oh, okay. And and is that a theme that has you said he was influenced by Le Guin. Is that something that Le Guin has played with in the past as well? The
yeah,
language type theme? Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah. Especially in that idea of cultural encounters
Okay.
and othering. You know, that plays a huge role in Le Guin's work. So yeah.
Oh, nice, nice. And what kind of time frame are we talking about for this story be taking place? Is it far, far future, or is it near future? Or
It's far, far future.
okay.
But like with all those books, of course, it's very close to us in a way. No, so we're on this planet, and it has an insect race, the Arakai, and they're the ones who have this really interesting language, because they can produce two sounds at the same time. One they produce with their mandibles, and the other by rubbing their wings. And they only recognize a language if that's produced like that, that has those two sounds simultaneously coming
Oh,
from the same brain. And they also have a very advanced biotechnology. And the humans who are on this planet need that biotechnology to survive. And they have to find a means to communicate with those insects. And that proves very difficult, because we as humans, we have one brain, and we can produce one sound with our mouth and our tongue, and that's it. So how would we communicate with a race that doesn't even recognize this as a language? And the solution they find is that they start to clone humans and train them into speaking two different things, but as if it was one mind. And that seems to work, and they can communicate then with this insect race. So they have pairs of cloned humans that then kind like are seen as one entity, because they're so in tune with each other that
wow.
even if they say or make two different sounds, it's as if it's produced by just one brain.
Oh, wow. That's brilliant. I haven't thought of
Yeah,
anything like that.
I mean, the idea of language and how he sets this up is totally fascinating. It's totally fascinating. I mean, it's built on the Sapir-Whorf thesis, at least partly. That's what's behind this idea of how language shapes our world and how we view the world.
Oh, okay.
But he even kind like typographically tries to reproduce this. So when the Arakai speak, it's written down like a division. So you have one line of text, and then you have a line that divides it from the bottom line. So at first,
Huh.
it takes quite a while to get into this book and kind of like get a bit of feel of what's actually going. What am I reading? And I probably won't find kind of like a. No, of course not. If you look for something, you find on find, but so it's printed very differently in that respect, and it takes a
Huh.
bit to get into it. So you have to work really to get into it. But I think the work pays off. Also, those clones, they call them ambassadors.
Okay. Yeah.
And when they're introduced, their names are written in this format as well.
Yeah.
So all the ambassadors have two-syllable names. So there's, for example, Ezra, and it's then spelled EZ above the line and RA below the line.
Interesting.
Yeah, and
Okay.
men and women can be ambassadors. So there's a Magda, and again, it's spelled MAG above the line and DA below the line. So yeah, he tries a lot of typographical stuff else as well.
Oh, wow. That sounds fascinating. And and of course, I'm being familiar with Perdido Street Station. It seems that Mieville seems to have a thing for insects.
He does, yes. Well, I mean, they're the ultimate other, no? Because
Yeah, oh yeah, right. Very
no,
alien looking. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. They are quite alien looking with their exoskeletons. Um, they can communicate. A lot of insects live in, almost social types
Yeah.
of groups, no, like ants, bees, and we
Yeah.
know they communicate. No, I mean, we have in Perdido Street Station the woman who's part beetle, part human, no, and she can communicate by using pheromones. No?
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, Here we have insects who can make two sounds at the same time. No? So yeah, I think he's very fascinated by insects, and because I mean they are very, very different from us, but also have similarities that we sometimes do not really want to acknowledge, I presume.
Isn't that like kind of like grasshopper? Doesn't they? Can't they do something that sounds similar to that? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Grasshoppers. I think they rub their legs and their wings together and
Right.
then make a sound. Yeah, that way. Yeah. So that's the idea, I think, behind the insects in Embassytown. Yes. Yeah.
Wow. All right. So, what about the story itself specifically spoke to you as a reader?
That he has quite an interesting female character. So we meet a woman called Avis or Vice. I don't know how exactly to pronounce it. It's like
Hmm.
all fantasy pronunciation. It's not.
Yeah.
Let's settle for we would just pretend Avis is the right one. Um, so she is one of the main POV characters, and she's a very, very strong woman. So that appealed to me. Apart from the language aspect, I found the whole idea how language is presented and how this in the end then also collapses totally fascinating, I have to say. But Evis was born on the planet, then did some intergalactic travel, worked somewhere else, and is now coming home. So she's back. And it seems to be a society that's very gender fluid. Way before that was a thing. I mean, 2011, no, nobody really had that on their agenda yet,
On
really.
the radar. Yeah.
Yeah, way out. And also when it comes to kind of like she is married, but she also has a love affair with one of the ambassadors, which also is weird because they're two people. No? So
Right.
she is one woman and she has a love affair with this cloned duo, so to say, which is bonkers in a way. So there is that aspect of it. Um, and yeah, I in general like cultural encounter stories. I
Okay.
really like
Right.
that. No? So, and I think that whole package, no, strong female character or very interesting female character, very interesting ideas about language plus cultural encounter story. Yes, winner.
Yes, and it's a
And
cultural.
engagingly written. I mean, I said at the beginning, you have to work a bit, but I think all his books are really engagingly written. So after a while, you just turn the pages.
Right. Yeah. 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 I found that with Pretty Street Station too.
Yeah, it reads very fast. No,
As
it's
soon
a
as you,
chunker, but it reads very fast. Yeah.
yeah, as soon as you got used to his style and his
Mm,
the way he writes, then it went very quickly after
mm,
that.
yeah.
Uh, so that's interesting, and of course the culture clash that would be presented in this book, of course, is a made up culture that
Yeah.
Mieville created. Do you see any similarities between his made up culture and any other cultures that we know about already, or is it something just whole cloth made up?
It's wholly made up, but
Yeah.
the similarities are more in how do humans treat this culture. No? Because it's about trade, it's about money, and
Mhm.
of course, then it also becomes very quickly about exploitation.
Right.
No? So
Right.
I
Yeah.
think that's where the similarities are more. And of course, if you also figure into it that Mieville is a communist, no,
Yeah.
then that's of course yeah, an interesting setup for him to play around with, where you have like, yeah, what predominantly is a trade relationship. No, so the
Sure.
humans are not so interested in, I don't know, what foods they have or what other customs they might have. No, it's really kind of like we need to communicate because we need the technology. Otherwise, we cannot survive on this planet. But we want to be on this planet because this planet is rich in all types of resources that we want. No,
Right.
so
Of course.
yeah,
Yeah.
so yeah, no?
That's
Yeah.
interesting. That's interesting. And is Embassy Town the name of the planet or just the location?
No, the name of the planet, and I have to, I've written it down because the name of the planet is Arakai, and it's the town that we know as Embassytown is actually called, let me just say, where do I have this? Yeah, so Embassytown is a colony, and the state this colony is in on this planet is called Bremen, like the German town in northern Germany.
Okay.
There are also other neologisms that Mieville uses that are loaned from German, like space travel is referred to as the immer. No? So immer means always. And he also has another term that's referred to as manchmal. Manchmal means sometimes. So apart from language, he plays around with time and space time as well a little bit in this novel. No? So yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. But yeah, the planet has a name. The planet's name is Arakai. The town we're in is called, or the colony we're in is called Embassytown. And then it's in this state, or whatever you might call it, Bremen.
Awesome. So, so for somebody coming in from the outside, we have a clash of cultures. We have, and we have, humans, of course, trying to get resources in they have a colonized area, and they're trying to establish relations with this race for that purpose. Are there any other aspects of this that you would that you would take to people unfamiliar with Mieville's work that would lure them into reading this?
Yes, I think the world building is just exquisite. I think all of Mieville's novels that are not set in our world. I mean, he has written novels that are set in our world, like Rat King, his very first novel, for example, is set in our London, no, and it's recognizably London. But all the novels that are set in secondary worlds have impeccable world building, and that's the same with Embassytown. So if you're into really bonkers ideas about how a world could work, then this is really the book for you. Like we have, for example, organic half living houses, or we have kind of like robot type automata that are partly sentient. No? So it's a very richly designed world. Like Perdido Street Station also was a very richly designed world. So Embassytown has that same aspect, where I would say, yeah, that's definitely a plus, not because you really get immersed into this world that he presents. And the other thing is it's the characters, no? Like, as I say, Avis is a very complex female character.
And she's our main character?
She is our main character, yes. She is married to a linguist who is on the planet to actually study the language of the Arakai. And she herself, because the Arakai the language doesn't allow them to lie. It's very literal. No? So it can't do metaphor, it can't do simile. And to achieve that, they get humans to take part in some type of a ritual to create a new simile. And Avis is one of those humans who did this for them. And that gives her kind of like a little bit of a different standing when it comes to this culture, because for certain events or ceremonies, the similes are, so to say, invited, so that they can, when they talk, can point to them, and then there's this stand-in, because everybody knows the ceremony where it's like let's say like a piece of performance art that they do for the Arakai, no, where they act out what the simile is supposed to present or to express. And then either the name of this person or the person itself can stand in for this simile. So if somebody talks and she is there, they can point towards her, and everybody knows, oh, okay, we're talking about this particular similar. And so that gives her a bit of a different standing. Also, her relationships and how she relates to others is sometimes quite complex and interesting. So a lot of Mieville's novels have this, let's say, ethical dilemma at their core.
Yeah, sure.
And we have this with Avis as well a bit, no? That she's not, well, she is in a way a morally grey character, I think, that has, yeah, maybe her heart in the right place, but doesn't make always the right decisions.
So quite similar to the main character in Perdito. What was his name?
Yeah, it's like almost like a female
Isaac
version
or
of Isaac.
Isaac?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. Because he was not. He was quite morally gray as well,
Mm,
and
yeah.
so that's or just an indication of a deep, rich character who has many motivations and you know, um, is truly human, like all of us. Uh,
Mm.
and are there any other secondary characters that are also like main characters that you
Yes,
can
there
latch
are the
onto?
ambassadors who are very important.
Hmm.
And what kind like disrupts this equilibrium that the humans and the Arakai have reached somehow is that a new ambassador arrives called Ezra. And Ezra is different because Ezra hasn't been cloned.
Oh,
And yeah, you know, so how is it possible for Ezra not being cloned to actually speak with this one mind? That's just one of the puzzles that is in the
oh,
story. And the other thing is when Ezra speaks, it's like a drug for the Arakai. They want they want more, more, more. No? They get
all right.
addicted to him. Um, and that disrupts the social fabric on both sides.
Huh.
And that's like the main conflict. And we
Oh,
have
okay.
Avis who tries to somehow help the Arakai, no? To get them away from this, yeah, drug-like speech that they hear. And yeah,
Hmm.
it gets very
That's
wild.
yeah, that's interesting. It seems like it has
One wouldn't think that a language issue can have such consequences.
right, exactly. But
Yeah.
it seems to set up you get that conflict and that I can only imagine that there's much more that branches out from that conflict to
Mm. Oh,
create
yeah.
more problems. And so that sounds fascinating. Excellent. So and you read this book how long ago? It was
Oh,
2012 or
as I
something like
said,
that.
the first time I read it probably in 2012, 13, but I've reread it twice since.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah, I really like Mieville. I really
So
like this book.
so definitely
There's a reason
something.
why I picked this.
Yeah, of course. Definitely something worth the reread if and worth keeping on the shelves, I guess.
Hmm. Oh, yeah,
uh,
yeah.
excellent. All right. So, is there any last thoughts about this story that you can entice us
Um,
with?
let's see. I mean, it's hard to talk about it with not spoiling too much, no?
Yeah.
But the conflict really gets very intense, and we're ending up with a warlike scenario, no? Where we have
Mm, yeah.
different factions, and we have almost like a civil war breaking out amongst the Arakai as well, because some want this new language, and it seems to enable them also to be able to finally lie, which they couldn't do beforehand. And then you have, of course, the others who say, "But that's bad. We can't do that. Lying. Oh no, we can't do this." And yeah, it has some really gruesome consequences.
Mm,
And
that makes sense for me, Evel. Yeah.
oh yeah, I mean, if you have read anything from Mieville, you know it can veer into some rather darker corners of um yeah, I will say mostly the human psyche and the human
Yeah.
heart, no? Because despite all the alienness and the insect race and whatever, no, ultimately it's a story about how we relate to others, how we see them, how we treat them, And I mean, we know from ourselves and our real life examples that's not always pretty, no?
Hmm.
And books that deal with this and try to deal with this in depth are at parts also not always pretty. Um, but that said, it's by far not the darkest or grimmest book I've ever read. So there is that as well, no? So yeah,
Yeah.
I would definitely recommend it. I think anybody who likes language topics, cultural encounter, is into, let's say, space opera of a different type, and wants totally bonkers world building, that's your book.
That's your book. All
Go
right.
read.
Excellent. Sounds like something I'm definitely going to be putting on my list to read
You
sometime
should. You really
this
should.
this year. So Angela, thank you very much for coming on Book Think. I appreciate it a lot.
Thank you for
And
having me. It was really fun. And yeah, great being here.
yep, and I'll put a link to your channel down below. Everybody should check out your excellent essays and reviews and stuff like that. All right.
Thank you. Thank you.
And so, as I say to everybody out there, be good to each other. Thank you.
Indeed. Bye.